shocking revelation, why Paul called himself a slave at 3 a.m., the truth that haunts today. It was 3 in the morning. The kind of hour when shadows hold their breath and secrets whisper through the darkness. Paul sat on the edge of his bed, hands trembling as he clenched the sheets. The clock ticked loudly, matching the frantic beat of his heart. Why did he call himself a slave? The air crackled with an eerie tension, a sense of foreboding that sent chills racing down his spine. Shadows danced across the walls, twisting like ghosts, making it seem like they were listening, waiting for the truth to spill. There was something unsettling about the room, dimly lit, with every knickknack seemingly alive. A dusty mirror reflected back his haunted gaze, eyes wide with fear. It wasn't just the hour, it was what had been crawling in his mind, gnawing at him, dragging him deeper into uncertainty. Paul wasn't just half awake, he was teetering on the edge of his own sanity. He recalled the night before, that strange figure, the hidden message slipping from the velvet darkness. "You owe them," it said, leaving an icy knot in his stomach. Who were them, and what debt did he owe? As the fog of confusion lifted, pieces of that night flooded back. A sense of urgency overtook him, each fragment sharp and vivid, the flickering streetlights casting jagged shadows, the sudden hush that enveloped the alley as if the world itself had paused. He felt eyes watching him. The sensation was unnerving. He glanced over his shoulder, expecting someone to be there. Nobody. Just him and the echoes of a truth he couldn't fully grasp. It felt like the walls were closing in, suffocating him with the weight of unspoken fears. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Paul couldn't shake off that chilling truth as it hung in the air. The sensation of being trapped, a prisoner in his own life, was overwhelming. Images flickered in his mind, faces from the past, each more haunting than the last. The memories merged into a pattern he couldn't understand. The people he'd let down, the choices he regretted. Why was he so drawn to the idea of servitude? What kind of dark magic held him in its grip? Each thought burned brighter than the last, demanding attention. He needed to uncover what lay beneath the surface of those haunting words, to shatter the chains binding him to his fears. Was it just a fleeting thought, or was there a reason behind it? The tension wrapped around him like a vice, and Paul knew he stood on the threshold of something monumental. But would he dare to step into the unknown? What horror awaited him if he pursued this path? The answers lay ahead, in the depths of his own mind where shadows meet revelation. Paul took a deep breath, but with it came a swell of terror. What if the truth was worse than he imagined? What if calling himself a slave wasn't just a phrase, but a horrific reality waiting to emerge? The stillness in Paul's room felt suffocating as he fought with his thoughts. The shadows flickered and shaped into menacing forms, making him question the very fabric of his reality. Sweat trickled down his brow as he reflected on the last conversation he had with his childhood friend, Mike, the night before everything changed. "You owe them, Paul. Can't you see?" The phrase played on repeat in his mind, echoing in a way that felt like it had a life of its own. A debt. Was it guilt? Was it something he couldn't escape, no matter how hard he tried? Paul had brushed it off at the time, thinking his friend was indulging in his usual paranoia. Now, though, those words gnawed at him, clawing through the layers of his mind, that he swung his legs off the bed and planted them on the cold floor. It took all his willpower to stand, the weight of his thoughts almost forcing him back down. He needed answers, and the darkness of the night wouldn't give them to him while he remained passive. Paul grabbed his phone, the brightness briefly stinging his eyes. He hesitated. Should he call Mike? The prospect terrified him. What if Mike knew more? What if he was hiding the truth, just as he had been all those years ago when he turned his back on a friend in need? The walk to the kitchen was long and filled with mental turmoil. Each creak of the old wooden floor echoed like a gunshot in his ears. Once there, he poured himself a glass of water, hoping it would chase the anxious tremors in his hands away. As he grabbed the glass, he caught sight of his reflection in the window. He didn't recognize the man staring back. Was that fear or madness in those eyes? The phone buzzed in his hand, a sudden jolt of adrenaline coursing through him. He glanced down, but it was just a notification from a social media app. A pang of disappointment hit him. No calls, no messages, just the world sharing mundane updates while he battled a spectral fight. Suddenly, he thought about the money he owed, bills piling up. Could that be it? But that felt so trivial compared to the weight of his haunting thoughts. Then it hit him like a bolt from the blue. What if the them was not just a single entity but something he had carried all these years? Guilt, regret, and fear warped into a dark cloud that had shadowed all his decisions. Each mistake a chain that tethered him to this wretched past. Paul made his way back to the bedroom, his breathing quickening as clarity washed over him. There was a box beneath his bed, a memento from years gone by, letters, pictures, debts that were owed. It could hold the key to understanding what them meant. Hesitation gripped him, because diving into that box was like opening a time bomb. But wasn't the risk worth it? He had to know. He knelt before the bed, fingers trembling as he pulled out the box. Dust danced in the dim light, and as he opened it, a chill swept through the room. The smell of old paper hit him like a slap, and there it was, the truth lingering at the edges of memory. It felt like the world around him held its breath, but in that moment of discovery, just as he reached for the first letter, the lights flickered ominously. Silence draped over him like a black shroud. Something was wrong. He could feel it, a change in the air, a deep pulse of unease thrumming at the back of his mind. And then a loud knock echoed from the front door. Paul froze. Who could it be at this hour? The sinking dread clawed at him as he exchanged the warmth of his room for the menacing unknown waiting beyond the threshold. Was this the moment he had been waiting for? Or had he opened a door better left closed? His heart raced, caught in a battle between curiosity and sheer terror. What awaited him could change everything, or destroy him completely. Paul stood at the threshold, heart pounding like a drum, each knock resonating in his chest. Instinct screamed at him to run, to hide beneath the covers where monsters couldn't reach him. But he was tethered to the moment, the weight of the box still snug in his grasp, its contents promising revelations he desperately craved. "Who is there?" he called out, forcing his voice to break through the silence. The second knock was heavier, more insistent, sending vibrations through the frame of the door. There was no answer, only an eerie stillness that followed, wrapping around him like a thick fog. He stole a glance at the old clock on the wall. It ticked loudly, mocking him with its slow rhythm. It was nearing midnight, and the world outside felt miles away. Yet, here he was, standing on the edge of uncertainty, a thin barrier between him and whatever lay beyond. Another knock shattered the still air, more frantic this time, urgency laced with something darker. He took a shaky breath, fingers tightening around the box. What did he have to lose? Whatever was on the other side had been waiting for him, just as he had waited for this moment. With trembling hands, Paul moved reluctantly toward the door, each step heavier than the last. He flipped the lock with a harsh click and pulled the door open an inch. The dim light from his hallway spilled out onto the figure standing before him. It was Mike. Paul's breath caught in his throat. The disheveled man stood in the shadows, eyes wide with a mixture of fear and urgency. "You shouldn't have opened that," Mike said, his voice barely above a whisper. "What are you doing here?" Paul demanded, confused and panicked. "It's late. I thought you'd left town. Wasn't it your choice to leave?" "I had to, Paul. You don't understand." Mike's words rushed out, and Paul swung the door wider. He needed to hear this, every detail he had previously dismissed. The electricity in the air sparked between them with unspoken tension. "What don't I understand?" "The debt," Mike said, stepping inside and looking over his shoulder as if someone might be following him. "It's not just about money. It's a life debt, a price we both have paid. They're not going to let this go. They're coming for you, for both of us." The weight of those words felt like a slap across Paul's face. His grip on the box loosened, and it slipped to the floor, the lid popping open, spilling old letters and photographs in a chaotic array around their feet. Memories surged through him, each item a fragment of a life he thought he'd left behind. "Where do you even start?" Paul whispered, eyes darting between Mike and the opened box. Each piece held echoes of laughter, of times long forgotten, of choices that felt innocent but bore consequences heavier than he could imagine. "They'll come for what's theirs," Mike continued, his voice laced with a deep-seated panic. "We owe them, Paul. You owe them because you didn't pull me with you when I was drowning. And now they'll collect." Paul's mind raced. His past clawed back at him. These weren't just old debts, these were shadows of his failures manifesting in real, spine-chilling ways. They had come back for him, and he was standing right in their path. The air shifted again, charged and thick. Suddenly, another knock echoed through the hall, but this time it was different, heavier and accompanied by a low, almost imperceptible growl. Paul felt chills crawl down his spine. "Did you hear that?" he asked, eyes darting to Mike, who was now scanning the shadows. "They're here," Mike breathed, panic flooding his features. "We need to hide. Now." As they moved toward the back of the house, Paul couldn't shake the feeling that the darkness was alive, watching, waiting. The gravity of their debts loomed over him, ready to consume everything he held dear. Would he be able to escape, to unearth the truth? Or would this be the night that claimed them both? The next sound that echoed through the room wasn't just another knock. It was the voice of something or someone ready to reveal the secrets they had long buried. The room felt impossibly small as Paul and Mike pressed against the cold walls. Breaths came in shallow gasps, the weight of their past closing in around them. The shadows danced on the walls, flickering like a candle's flame caught in a storm, and with every passing second, the growling voice seemed to echo louder. Mike whispered, eyes wide and frantic. "We can't stay here. If they're here, they might already know." "What do you mean they might know? Who are they?" The questions poured out, a torrent of confusion mixing with fear. The box lay abandoned, its chaotic contents scattered, a testament to a life now in shambles. "I didn't have all the answers back then," Mike said, pacing back and forth, fingers running through his hair. "But I do now, and it's worse than we thought, much worse." His voice trembled as he spoke, the gravity of their situation heavy in the air. "Just tell me." Paul felt a knot tighten in his stomach. The truth could be worse than the unknown, but he needed clarity, had to know what was coming for them. "They're connected to that group," Mike continued, frustration painting his words. "The one we fled from. They don't just collect debts, they collect people, lives. And if we don't figure this out, Paul, we're not leaving here alive." A chill ran down Paul's spine. He had thought that running away meant escaping, but it was clear now that their past had only been lying in wait. A sudden scream echoed from outside, followed by the crunch of gravel, heavy footsteps approaching, sound cutting through the silence like a knife. Paul shot a glance at Mike, whose face had gone pale. "What do we do?" he murmured, panic rising in his chest. "We need to," Mike began, but the words were swallowed by the darkness, replaced by another growl, louder and more menacing, as if something grotesque was creeping closer. "Shoo!" Paul held a finger to his lips, heart racing. The creature, if that's what it was, seemed to be sniffing the air. Shadows curled like fingers beneath the doorway, slithering toward them. "Please." Paul pressed his back harder against the wall. "We have to be quiet." Their silent standoff felt as if time had frozen, eyes locked on the door, breath steadying. And then came the sound of slamming fists, harder and fiercer than before. The door rattled, but the load of the box had fallen, momentarily hiding the remnants of their past. "Keep the box safe," Mike whispered urgently, realizing what might be at stake: the answers, the truth. We need it if we're going to fight back. Paul nodded, not breaking his gaze from the door. Suddenly, the growl morphed into a low wheezing. Something was on the other side, waiting, taunting them. Blood rushed to Paul's ears, drowning out every logical thought. The doorknob rattled. Fear clawed at Paul's throat. "What if—" "Trust me," Mike said firmly. "Stay calm. If it breaks through, we fight." With each beat of his heart, dread swelled inside Paul, but he felt a flicker of resolve spark within him. They had a chance. They had the box. Yet, behind the door, whatever was lurking could tear apart every shred of hope in an instant. Just as Paul steeled himself for the worst, a voice broke through the suffocating tension, a familiar one. "Paul! It's me. Open the door." Hope surged through him, but confusion followed like a dark wave. "Who is it?" he shouted back, heart hammering. "It's Jenna." The voice pleaded, filled with desperation. Paul's breath hitched. Jenna? His sister? Why would she be here? The last he heard, she was safe, far away from all of this. "Why are you here?" Paul asked, voice trembling. "You need to go. You don't understand. They're after me too. Please, just open the door." And just like that, the delicate thread of their lives spun tighter, entangling even more as they faced not only their debts but the terrifying reality of justice calling everyone home. Would he take a chance and open the door for Jenna? Or was it too late as shadows gathered, ready to reclaim what they believed was theirs? The grip of fear stirred Paul's heart into a frantic dance. Jenna's voice echoed inside his mind, but it was laced with worry. Why was she here? The last few conversations they had felt like fragments of dreams half-formed and twisted by nightmares. "Jenna, you shouldn't have come." Paul shouted back, though every fiber in him screamed to throw open the door. The heavy thudding outside intensified, pounding like a tribal drum, rising the stress levels in the small space. "Please, just go." "We can't, Paul." The desperation in her voice shattered his resolve. "I need you. You're the only one who can help me. Please." Mike leaned in closer, urgency lining his expression. "She doesn't get what's at stake, Paul. She's putting us all in danger. They'll come for her, and us too. If we don't act." A suffocating silence followed his words as headlights suddenly swept across the walls, spilling into the already dark corners of the room. Paul's stomach lurched. It was like the sky had fallen to the ground, a crushing weight of realization. More of them were inside or near the property, and they were searching. "Do you hear that?" Paul whispered, heart pounding as whispers trickled through the cracks of uncertainty. "They're here. Get it together." Mike hissed. "This is what they do, they make us panic. If we don't focus, they'll find us." The growling voice that had haunted them now morphed into laughter, low and echoing, reverberating like a dirge that heralded their end. It was coming from Jenna, or perhaps from the very shadows moving ever closer. The atmosphere turned electric, as if the very air was charged with malice. Paul flinched as the laughter grew louder, contorting into grating, mocking cackles. "Open the door, Paul. It's safe out here." Jenna's pleading transformed into a haunting echo of what might have been. "Shut up." Mike's voice held more authority but cracked under the impending pressure. "Don't listen to her. It's a trap." "A trap? What kind of trap?" Paul's throat tightened. The tension warped around him, making it hard to breathe. The fight between trust and fear clawed at him with equal ferocity. What had Jenna gotten wrapped up in? The group had always been brutal, and he could feel the dark, heavy tendrils of that past reaching for him again. Another slam against the door jolted him back. "Stay away from my sister." Paul screamed, stepping forward, his hand poised over the doorknob. But then doubt flooded back. Could he really open that door? Ideas swirled in his head, but one image stood out starkly: the box. The answers were inside. Could he risk opening it while the chaos danced outside? That box was more than memories, it was their lifeline. Think, Paul. We have to make a choice now. Mike insisted, breathing heavy and ragged. Will you take that risk for her? What if it's too late? The laughter outside grew louder, twisted into a cacophony that seemed to suck the light away from the room. Just let me in. Jenna's voice soared above the noise, almost breaking. But Paul was frozen. What if it was all a scheme to drag him back into his old life's suffering, debts, fear? And what if there was more to this than just their past? The growling intensified, and harsh whispers began curling around his limbs, binding him in uncertainty. He could feel at the moment when the shadows would not just dance, but pounced that a decision loomed, heavy and unavoidable. But before he could grasp it, the door suddenly rattled violently, shoved from outside, and something began to push through, heavy and relentless. Paul! Now! Mike shouted, urgency splintering the moment. Paul had only seconds. To stand for Jenna could mean losing everything. To leave her could mean losing a part of himself. As the door creaked open a fraction enough for shadowy figures to spill inside, an inescapable truth settled over him. Ignoring his heart's hammering protest, he made a choice. But what waited beyond that door? Was it a lifeline, or their end? The moment hung in the air as Paul's breath caught again. What awaited them all could shatter their world. Would the secret of the box give them a fighting chance, or was it merely another snare in the web that had ensnared them for too long? The echoes of their past clashed with the howls surrounding them, making everything feel like a race against a clock that was running out. Paul's heart raced as the door finally gave way, crashing open and spilling shadows into the room. The air morphed, thick with dread, as figures lurked at the threshold, dark and ominous. Paul instinctively backed away, but Mike stood firm, arms raised as if to ward off the encroaching darkness. Stay back. Mike's voice trembled, but there was a fierce determination behind it. The shadows answered with chilling laughter, a sound that sent shivers racing down Paul's spine. He could feel the weight of his choices pressing down, constricting like a vice. Jenna's figure flickered in and out of view, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and something else, hope. Paul, please. We need to leave. Now. Run. Mike shouted, a frantic urgency spilling from his lips. But where? To what? The figures pressed into the room, their malevolence thick enough to taste. Paul's stomach twisted as he glanced at the box, the answers he desperately sought trapped within. Was this all for naught? Fingers of shadow reached toward Jenna, curling like smoke as they whispered her name, laced with seduction and malice. Her expression twisted in conflict, fighting the urge to succumb to whatever it was they promised. The part of Paul that still believed in her cried out, stay strong, Jenna. Fight them. He could feel the moment hanging by a fraying thread. The shadows began shifting, taking form, sharpening. Those figures weren't just faceless specters, they were the very embodiment of his fears, each representing a torment he had fought to escape. Let her go. Paul roared, the echo of his own desperation filling the cavernous room. He stepped forward, grounding himself as Jenna was pulled closer to the void, threatening to swallow them all. Get away from her. At that moment, Jenna's eyes met his, a silent plea to remember everything they had once stood for. Memories surged through him, laughter, shared dreams, a bond tethered by survival. He couldn't abandon her, not now, not ever. Paul. Mike's shout brought him back to the reality spiraling out of control. The box. We need it now. Paul hesitated, doubt gnawing at his insides. The box held more than just memories, it held the key to unraveling the ties binding them to the darkness outside. Conflicted thoughts collided. What if opening it meant unleashing more chaos? The moment stretched painfully as another silhouette stepped forward, cloaked in shadow but tinged with familiarity. The laugh echoed around them like a funeral bell, rising above their panicked breaths. A figure he recognized too well, someone from the past he thought long gone. Did you miss me, Paul? The voice oozed with mockery, coaxing and taunting that he could barely breathe. You shouldn't be here. Each word shuddered through him as he fought to suppress the memories rushing in. Too late for regrets. You can't outrun your past, not now. The figure lifted a hand, and suddenly, the whispers intensified, reaching deep inside Paul's secrets he had buried, threatening to explode to the surface. Stop! Paul shouted, feeling his control flickering like a dying flame. You have no power over me. But the shadows closed in tighter, brimming with malicious glee. Jenna was just an arm's length away, but she seemed to drift further into their grasp. Panic clawed at Paul's chest, forcing his heart to race, each beat a countdown to destruction. With each step the shadowy figure took, the air grew heavier, threatening to crush him. He was losing them both, and the very thought sent adrenaline surging through his veins. What did he have to lose? Get the box! Mike screamed amidst the chaos. That was the last sliver of clarity Paul needed, igniting desperation within him. He lunged towards the box, shoving past the enveloping shadows, his hands trembling as he grasped it tightly. Paul! Jenna's voice broke through the cacophony, urging him to act, to do something before it was too late. The moment snapped like a tightrope underfoot. What if it all led to their end? What did he truly risk opening this box? As he flipped the lid, blinding light erupted, forcing the shadows backward with an agonized screech. There was no turning back now. But as he gazed inside, he was met with an unexpected image, one that changed everything. What revelation awaited him in that box could shatter their already precarious existence? A new fear gripped him. Had he awakened something worse than what they faced outside? The shadows were merely the beginning. What awaited in the depths of the box? The blinding light from the box spilled through the room, illuminating the darkness in stark contrast. Shadows writhed, shrieking in agony as if sunlight itself pierced them deep. Paul's heart thundered in his chest. He didn't know whether to hope or despair. Inside the box lay not just memories, but fragments of lives they had once touched. A photograph flashed before his eyes, smiling faces, a picnic on a sunny afternoon. Laughter danced in the air as he recognized the people. Friends he never thought he'd see again, faces frozen in time, full of warmth. But alongside them lay a darkness he dreaded, a photo of a grave, a tombstone bearing the name of someone he could never forget. No, he breathed, the air leaving his lungs. Jenna gasped, straining against the tendrils of shadow that threatened to pull her away. What is it, Paul? What does it mean? Those are his voice trailed off, shaking as he took another look. Realization hit like a freight train. They're all connected. The past, the pain, my mistakes. The shadows twisted violently, sensing his turmoil, growing bolder, hungry for his fear. They surged forward, even as the light pushed back. Mike, still trying to defend against the encroaching figures, was panting hard, eyes wide. Paul, you have to control it. Focus. Focus. He tried, but the memories blitzed through him. Moments of betrayal and loss spiraled violently in his mind like a tornado. He clenched the box, reading the inscription along its edge, "The chains we bear." The dark figure that once mocked him stepped closer, gleefully drawing energy from Paul's anguish. Look at what you've lost, Paul. You thought you could escape. You thought you could leave it all behind. Paul struggled to find his voice. You don't own me. He shouted, fighting the paralysis of his past. Don't I? It sneered, raising an arm with a flourish. The shadows momentarily whipped about like tendrils, forming a vortex, threatening to consume everything and everyone. In that moment, clarity washed over Paul. What if the key to breaking free lay in recognizing his pain, facing it instead of burying it? You're just a reflection of my fear. He shouted, pushing through the tempest of memories. The light from the box surged, causing the wraith-like figure to recoil. Stop. You cannot defeat me with mere words. In a gesture of defiance, he hurled the photograph back into the void. I accept my past. I won't be chained by it any longer. Time seemed to dilate as powerful energy rippled through the air. A radiant pulse pushed the shadows back, and Jenna gasped, "Paul." The shadows faltered, pulling away momentarily, disoriented by his act of bravery, but the battle wasn't over. The figure snarled, "You think this ends here? You cannot simply wish me away. I am the darkness woven into every choice you ever made." With renewed strength, Paul turned to Jenna and Mike. "We have to act now. The light, use it. Channel it." He summoned everything he had into the box, focusing on Jenna's face, on the bond they shared. The memories, the good ones, the ones that mattered, filled him with purpose. Together, we can push them back. But as Jenna reached out, and Mike stood resilient, the shadows coalesced in one desperate strike, the darkness thick and tangible. They shrieked in unison, sending a wave of dread surging through Paul. What if the light couldn't hold them? "Please!" he cried, the shadows clawing at him, pulling him toward despair. The box pulsed in response to his fear, the energy wavering, and then, laughter erupted, a mocking sound that filled the space. "You cannot win, Paul. The truth cannot be undone." With every thread of his being, Paul shouted, "Then let us face it together." As Jenna and Mike locked hands with him, the darkness writhed, and the light surged with their unity. But amidst the struggle, a chilling revelation echoed in the back of his mind: could the shadows unveil a more terrible truth about his past? What if exposing the truth meant losing everything he held dear? In that gut-wrenching moment of determination, Paul realized there were depths within the box still left unexplored. Was the truth about to be unearthed, or would it swallow them whole? The shadows hesitated, swirling like smoke caught in a breeze, uncertain of their next move. Paul's heart raced, each beat a drum of defiance against the darkness. Jenna and Mike held his hands tighter, their fingers intertwined like lifelines tethering him to sanity. He could feel their warmth, a beacon against the encroaching cold of despair. "Remember why we're fighting," he urged, his voice trembling but fierce. "We won't just confront my past. We will reshape it." The dark figure narrowed its eyes, frustration twisting its features into a grotesque mask. "You think you can rewrite history? You think you're stronger than the choices that bound you?" Paul swallowed hard, remembering each moment of regret, every time he felt like he had failed those he loved. But within that pain lay the potential for growth. "It's not about rewriting it. It's about learning from it," he shouted, feeling anger mix with the spark of hope igniting inside him. The shadows hissed and coiled, launching towards him with fierce urgency, but Paul drew upon the light emanating from the box, channeling their collective strength. "Fight with me," he urged Jenna and Mike. "Unite our memories. Let them drive us." The trio closed their eyes, planting their feet firm as if grounding themselves into the floor. Memories flooded their minds, the laughter, the fun, the warmth of friendship transformed into a shield. A wave of emotion surged through them. The memory of their first night together, the inside jokes that still made them chuckle, the unwavering support through trauma and loss. The box pulsed, its light shattering the oppressive gloom like a glass breaking in the silence. Shadows writhed and shrieked, an orchestra of despair trying to drown out their unity. "We were never alone," Mike yelled, confusion etched across his face, shifting to fierce determination. "Never." Jenna opened her eyes, fire lighting up her gaze. "Paul, let go of the shame, the burden. You are more than your mistakes." The combined focus of their memories struck the shadows like a thunderbolt, scattering the darkness outward. In the chaos, the figure reeled, screams of protest echoing around them. "You cannot silence me. I am your pain, your chains." "Not anymore," Paul bellowed. The light intensified, forcing the shadows ever back. As the whirlwind of darkness began to collapse within itself, Paul caught a glimpse. Shadows fissured apart, revealing fragments of faces he thought he'd never see again. Each one, a crucial part of his life, occulted by regret. And then he saw her, Elena. Her face illuminated by the box's shimmering glow. A rush of memories, sweet and painful, cascaded through him, moments of laughter, of love, but also the night he lost her. Panic ignited like wildfire in his chest. No. Not this. Paul screamed, desperate to bury the emotion that threatened to drown him. Elena's image flickered, her presence a nexus of his sadness and strength. You have to confront what you've buried, Paul. The shadows surged violently, their shrieks now sounding almost desperate. Face the truth. It will ruin you. Then let it. Paul shouted back, heart racing. I won't allow fear to bind me anymore. Channeling that emotion, his grief, his loss, and ultimately, his love, he unleashed a blinding flash of light into the core of darkness. The shadows screamed, disintegrating into an explosion of smoke, leaving only echoes in the air, yet, as the light faded, an unsettling silence filled the room. Paul felt exposed, naked in the aftermath. Had he really broken the chains holding him? Or had he merely unleashed something far worse, something more treacherous lurking in the depths? As he panted, the remnants of the shadows swirling at the edges of his vision, a chilling realization poured over him like ice water. What comes next? He whispered, fear threading through his voice as the box began to pulse again, ominously brighter. Was this victory, or were they merely at the precipice of something darker? The air around them crackled with an energy that felt electric, binding Paul, Jenna, and Mike in a tense cocoon. Each pulsation from the box was a heartbeat, syncopating with their own fragmented breath. Shadows still clung to the walls, pooling in the corners like spilled ink, not entirely gone, merely waiting. What do we do now? Jenna's voice was thin, teetering on the edge of panic. What if facing it has made things worse? Paul could almost feel the weight of those lingering shadows pressing in, the echoes of despair urging him to recoil into helplessness. But he couldn't. Not after that glimpse of Elena. Not after the promises he had made. We stand together, he insisted, eyes narrowing on the menacing box. Whatever comes, we face it as one. Mike squeezed Jenna's hand tighter, grounding her as their eyes locked onto Paul, a silent agreement forming between them. Tension and expectancy danced in the air, urging them to prepare. The box lit up again, brighter this time, shards of light bursting from it like fireworks exploding in a dark void. An unfamiliar sound echoed, a low hum, both enchanting and terrifying. Shadows writhed, drawn toward the brilliance as if attempting to consume it. Look! Mike shouted, pointing to the source of the light. What is happening? The box began to vibrate, the ground beneath them thrummed like a distant earthquake's tale, making their feet feel unstable. Paul swallowed hard, choking on his fears but remembering the strength they had drawn from their memories. As if answering his call, the glowing light transformed. Shapes twisted out of the brilliance, the silhouettes of friends long gone and old faces shrouded in regret took form. He froze, recognizing people who had haunted his every step, each bleak moment now thrust into stark reality. Why can't you let it go? A taunting voice echoed from the light, taking a shape he knew all too well. Jason, an old friend whose laughter once filled the darkest corners of Paul's world. You'll never escape this, Paul. You know it. No. Paul shouted, the cry tearing from him with the force of a gale. I refuse to be tethered to what was. The light intensified and Jason's figure flickered, wavering as if struggling against an unseen tide. It felt as if the fabric of his own memories was unraveling. Paul could sense Jenna and Mike's shivers beside him, their solidarity charged with urgency. But the truth is heavy, Paul. It's a burden you'll always carry. Hissed another form, the gray outline of a family member who once scorned him. Remorse and inadequacy manifested. Shut up. Paul screamed into the void. You don't define who I am. The laughter reverberated, now a chorus of mockery, a cacophony of voices from his past trying to drown him. You think this light will save you? You're nothing without your mistakes. Each taunt pricked at his skin, magnified his pain. His chest tightened as he battled temptation, the urge to break down, to just let the darkness win. But he clenched his fists, recalling every moment he had fought through. Come on, Paul. Mike shouted, voice threaded with urgency. Remember why we're here. Fight for us. Fight for you. Fueled by rage and love and camaraderie, Paul inhaled sharp and deep, steel slicing through his resolve. You don't control me. He bellowed, channeling the energy of his friends. I own my past. The light surged further, a torrent against the shadows that threatened to suffocate them. Figures began to dissolve into the light, their holds loosening, becoming mere wisps of a memory, yet, just before the last face dissolved into the brilliance, it brought forth one chilling sentence: You're still not free, Paul. Not yet. The light extinguished with a shattering crack, plunging them into darkness again, deep and suffocating. Paul felt his heart race, like a drum echoing through a hall of despair. Paul, what is happening? Jenna whimpered, panic rising again in her voice. The pulsations of the box dimmed, its rhythm unsettlingly slower, leaving a haunting quiet in its wake. An incomprehensible fear loomed, heavier than before, ready to engulf them. What are we supposed to do? Paul looked at Jenna and Mike, shadows inching closer as if eager to reclaim him, but before he could piece together an answer, a new sensation clawed at the back of his mind, the realization that something deep within him was still left to confront, and then, a whisper slithered through the darkness, welcome back, Paul. What could that mean? What more could he face now? The darkness seemed to swallow them whole, the air heavy as Paul, Jenna, and Mike stood huddled together, adrenaline coursing as shadows twisted around them. The glow from the box pulsed erratically, a heartbeat throbbing against the backdrop of silence. Tension wrapped around them, stifling and raw. Stay focused, Paul urged, gathering the fragments of his courage. He understood now that the chains binding him were not just remnants of past mistakes but manifestations of fear that now laid exposed in the shadow arena. Face it, Paul. Mike insisted. His voice carved a path through the weight of despair. Whatever lurks here, it's part of you. You can't deny it. Embrace it. Paul nodded, swallowing hard. He felt the lump in his throat threatening to choke him. We need to finish this together. The box suddenly emitted a brilliant flash of light, illuminating all their worries, illuminating their bond. Jenna squeezed Paul's hand, the warmth a flicker of hope amidst the encroaching shadows. He realized that they carried their collective burdens, not just his alone. With a deep breath, Paul lifted the lid of the box wide, letting the light flow forth. Memories swirled around him, voices of friendship, laughter, echoes of old promises filled the space, charging it with emotional energy. These are the things we've lost, and now we reclaim them. As he shouted, something shifted in the shadows. They writhed, twisting and contorting, almost as if the darkness was alive, feeling the remnants of the emotions shed before it. Deep within him, all the hurt, regret, and guilt tangled, simmering to a boiling point. Paul! Jenna shouted, her eyes wide with inspiration. Think of the good memories, the strength we've built. Images of shared joy exploded in his mind. The three of them, two with arms around him, standing strong against the night's uncertainty. He conjured their first night of wild laughter, each vivid detail igniting a fire in his chest. Those cherished moments. They're our weapons. The shadows screeched, a chorus of agony as they slipped back, startled by the raw power radiating from unity. Paul felt himself drawing strength from those memories, turning pain into power, doubt into determination. I'm done being afraid. You're no longer my chains. The dark figure loomed closer, a swirling mass of every regret clawing at him. You can't outrun your past, Paul. You cannot deny me, for I am part of you. Yes, you are. But you will not control me. Paul stepped forward, channeling the light of the box into a blazing aura. You are a reflection of the past, a ghost of my own making. And with my friends, I wield the truth. With those words, he hurled the essence of their collective memories into the shadows. Light exploded, filling the room, bathing it in brilliance as the shadows hissed and recoiled, banished by the resolve and unity pouring forth from the box. Together. Mike shouted, pulling Jenna closer as they drew upon the light unleashed. Let us end this. As they stood steadfast, a barrier of luminous power rose, formed by their shared hope. The shadows writhed, losing form, shrieking in agony as the light swallowed them whole. Paul steadied his breath, feeling lighter, as if years had been lifted from his shoulders. He could see it now, the shadows crumbling, revealing the faces from his past, the pain dissolving into nothing. Too soon, a voice echoed, softer now, from the heart of the disappearing shadows. You are stronger than you believe, and then they were gone, evaporating into the light. Gradually, the glow faded, leaving the trio standing in the silence of their own triumph. The box lay still, its secrets dimmed but not lost. Paul knelt beside it, running a hand over its surface. With the others by his side, he felt a weight lift, clarity washing over him. The fear that once bound him wasn't annihilated, it had transformed into a lesson. A lesson he would carry forward. As they stood there, new air filling their lungs, it was clear this was not an end, it was a beginning. We broke free, Paul whispered, a grin spreading across his face. Jenna's eyes sparkled. And we reclaim what matters most. Honestly, truth, and us. Mike threw an arm around both of them, pulling them close. Let us never lose sight of that again. Together, we rebuild. And just like that, beneath layers of fear, amidst the broken chains, they stepped into an unknown world. A world where past mistakes were not shackles but stepping stones that led to something brighter. They embraced the unexpected path ahead, ready to shape a new future. Together. As they walked out into the night, it wasn't just chains had been shed, but rebirth into a new existence filled with promise and intertwined hope. And that, my friends, is where this story leaves us today. But wait. Before you leave, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will blow your mind. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm like it's starving. Flood the comments section with your reactions and brainstorm theories about Paul's journey and what may lie ahead. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Bring them into this journey of courage. Your support makes all the difference for the channel.